Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Be the Wolf. I'm here today with Kate, and she has quite a story to tell us about some things that you would not necessarily expect to shift your business and to overall make her life better. And I want to give you the floor, Kate, so you can tell us everything it is that you are doing with people, what it is that you do, so that people can get that little quick taste before we dive into your story.
Awesome. Well, Genea, first, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's an absolute privilege, and I'm excited to be here and share some of my story. And in brief, I'm a vegan health coach and author. And, I help vegans and the plant based curious, which can be any level of curious, prioritize their health and happiness. And as we'll get into, even though I've been in personal trainer for a couple of decades, the health is super vital. However, happiness is at least as vital. And, I do that by helping people create the most effective mindset to make prioritizing the best eating and exercising actions simple, sustainable, and fun. And again, fun, that's a component that it's taken me a while to realize. Some of those really important things you learn the hard way. It's not just about the big goal, whether that's in health or business. It's about enjoying the journey as well, because life is the journey. So that's the super brief on me.
Oh, beautiful. One of the things that I want to just say for the people who are listening, you might be thinking for a minute, well, oh, a health coach or veganism. Like, I don't know if I need to be listening to this, but you do. You need to be listening to, not because you need to become a vegan or you need to become the most healthy person in the entire world, but a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today has a lot to do with your business and what you bring to the table, and what you bring to the table, how you feel. All of those things will make an impact on the results you have in your business. And so we're going to dive in first. You used to you used to classify yourself as, well, I guess maybe you would classify your past self as an angry vegan. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say first, great, I guess, foundation and like preamble that you just shared on it. This isn't going to be just about your health, right? Obviously, for our listeners that are super business focused, the healthier, the more energy you are, the more effective you're going to be in your business. And relation to that angry vegan, which absolutely I used to call myself an angry vegan, and Genea, I still have those tendencies. It's still a to work on for me. But it might be that caused me conflict in my relationships. And with you, it could be anything else that you feel super passionate about, anything very dear to your heart and your values. It could be politics, religion, it could be anything that potentially causes conflict in your business, with your loved ones, with your family. I think there are going to be takeaways that relate to everyone. Back to my angry vegan past, let's say in the past, I became vegetarian as a 16-year-old for the animals. And it would be a further 23 years until I watched the documentary Cowspiracy. And I learned that if I was vegetarian for the animals, actually they were still dying for my food choices, and I needed to become vegan for the animals. And with that, there was a lot of anger because A, I felt like I'd been lied to, right? I was an ethical vegetarian and yet animals were still dying. And B, when I shared my learnings with the people I loved most, and I'll include some of those people I love as my dear clients. When you train people as a personal trainer for a decade plus, which it had been then, you have a very strong relationship with people and you share the truth that you have learned that is close to your heart, and they don't make the changes that you made. And that can cause some anger, right? As a vegan living in a non vegan world where there is so much suffering that I saw as completely unnecessary, there is a lot of anger and sadness and frustration. that you carry around 24/7. And as you can imagine, that is really, really exhausting.
Yeah. Well, it is very exhausting when you're trying to get people to listen and do what you want them to do. It's
100%.
and you made it that point earlier about it could be anything. It could be politics, it could be religion, it could be the way one loads the dishwasher. And one of the things that we as humans forget is we think that everybody is like us. And it's really hard when we feel so passionately about something and we see it so clearly and we can't understand why somebody else would think any differently. And so that begets this frustration. And I think sometimes at the core of it, it's almost like you feel not heard because it feels like they must not be hearing me because if they heard me, they would do what I do.
100%. And, I come from a bit of an NLP background, neuro linguistic programming. And,
Mhm.
this is the study of effective mindset, really, the study of success strategies. And we speak to the map is not the territory, right? And everyone has their own map of the world. And by that, I mean, we all have our own values, beliefs, goals, priorities, life experiences, and more so what we make all of those things mean. So, when presented with the same information, we're not going to come to the same conclusion. We're just not. And if I had had someone else's same life experiences, I possibly wouldn't have come to that same conclusion either. And so that is an awareness that I need to focus on and carry with me. And, originally I was focusing on everything that was different about me and the people that I loved most. And again, I can include clients in that. And my slow, tough learned lesson was that actually it is so much more effective to focus on what we have in common because whoever we are speaking to, actually, there is so much more that we have in common with that individual and with what we're all looking to achieve in the world and the life that we want to live. And it just takes that focus onto again what you have in common and not those things that we have in difference.
Yes. Yes. I always say one of the things that a lot of the movements in the world that are happening, one of the reasons why they fail is because we spend so much time vilifying the other as opposed to where is that common ground? Where is that common ground that we can relate on, connect on, and build from? And I think when you're talking about your clients and your business, like we're not all going to have the same views. And I may think that you have great things to get healthy and really you can really help me get where I need to go and from a physical level, but I'm not going to give up eating meat. I'm just not going to. I do try to buy as ethically as I can because that is important to me, but that's not my specific priority. And also, I think that we have so much more common ground than we do differences.
Absolutely. And I came to realize that if I have this big vision, which I do, it's about focusing on what is effective, not what my angry, passionate little animal rights activist heart, not dropping the truth bombs. They're not effective. If I lead with judgment, people are going to feel judged and they're going to put up resistance, right? And we do not need that. So, my lesson is to lead with what is most effective. And, old days, I used to think effective as a personal trainer and health coach was rocking around in a fit, strong, healthy body and, walking the talk. And that is effective. However, it's not enough. Equally, you need to welcome people into the lifestyle that you are selling, right? You need to be that happy individual as well. You can't be that heartbroken sad, miserable, angry vegan because it's not welcoming. It's not like, hey, I want to try this. She's miserable 24/7. She's got a huge chip on her shoulder. She might look somewhat fit, but it's a pretty miserable existence. So I'm just going to keep my head in the sand, right? I learned slowly that that is not effective, and I am all about effective now.
Yeah. One of my top core values is effectiveness. And so we optimize things and we make things so efficient, but the most efficient thing is not always the most effective thing.
Mhm.
And you said something that was really important is that walking the talk. Like, what are you selling people? What are you enrolling them into? And you're definitely not going to enroll somebody who's not a vegan into a vegan lifestyle if you're angry and cranky and just rawr all of the time. I don't want to buy that. Don't sell me that. I don't want that. You need to have a hamburger or something.
Yeah,
Like, but
100%.
but so you that's one thing that you really brought up that I think it shows how it can affect the business. But for you specifically, how was your angry animal rights activist persona affecting your business? Like, what were tangible things that you saw and experienced because of that attitude, if we will?
The main 2 things were the absolute 24/7 energy that it took up to maintain that focus. So always be focused on everything that was wrong with the world and everything that other people were doing that to me I saw as wrong, cruel, and all of this. Literally to think of that 24/7, to hold my tongue in conversations 90% of the time and then explode because I just hit my limit. And again, whether that was in business or in conversation with a loved one, if you bite your tongue and don't say something 90% of the time, you're probably going to explode and say way much more than you expected to that other 10% of the time. And then there's guilt, right? It's just a cycle of biting my tongue and then feeling guilty because what I said was not effective. And that is a massive waste of energy. It's the same as having a closed heart, I'm learning. My journey is about love is so much easier than hate. And that's, I mean, again, it's so much more than why I'm no longer an angry vegan. It's leading with love in life and business rather than leading with hate and a closed heart and keeping everything closed and in and firmly under control. That is a lot more effort than just leading with love and compassion and feeling aligned. The other thing it cost me was my relationships. I was building a wall between my most important relationships and myself because, again, I was focusing on what they weren't doing, on what we didn't have in common. And even when I wouldn't explicitly be saying those things, even when I was biting my tongue, people can feel, they can sense your energy. And particularly the people closest to you can, the people that you've had years of a working or whatever type of relationship with, they can feel that. And that is not effective for a long term trusting relationship. And I noticed that my relationships were being diminished. And I certainly noticed that I wasn't happy. You know, I was all consumed with everything that was wrong. And that is just not a happy place to be in the world.
Yeah, for sure. When you talked about it affecting your relationships, one of the most important things when we're talking about building a business is your relationships. Of course, you have relationships with clients. If you're a coach, a consultant, and you do that kind of work, you have relationships with your customers. You have, and those relationships aren't always one on one, but where you are coming from, as you said, projects a certain energy. I just had a client message me and said, wow, since our last session, I think my energy has totally shifted because these clients that were on the fence and totally giving me all these objections in the DMs all of a sudden are super curious. And we did nothing but neutralize some of her emotions, basically. So coming, she's coming at the world in a more calm place. And the thing about relationships ultimately are built on trust. And we know as we're building a business, it's always the like, no trust. Well, how do you build the trust? Is people need to feel safe with you. And when you are feeling contracting emotions like guilt or shame or anger or even sadness, you become at an instinctual level unpredictable
Mhm.
because we know people who are angry or tense, really very tense. You don't feel safe around them because subconsciously you know they're unpredictable. You know they could fly off the handle. And just as you said, you're holding your tongue, holding your tongue, holding your tongue until you can't hold it anymore and you fly off the handle. And so one of the things when we start moving from a place of those more expansive emotions like love and joy and gratitude, we become more trustworthy. People feel more comfortable from us. They're more willing to give us their money. They're more willing to repeat and keep coming and recommend you, all of those things. But it's not always so easy to let go of the anger. So I'm so curious how you let go of the anger.
I'd like to think I would have gotten there without the worst thing in my life ever happening to me. I don't know though. I was actually forced there. So, as I shared, I became vegan about 9 years ago now, probably. And I was that crazy mad animal rights activist. Again, said with love. If there are any animal rights activists living, so much love, listening, so much love and respect to you, my friends. However, my dear mum rang me a couple of years into my vegan journey and said, Katie, I don't know what to do about Christmas. You're this animal rights activist. Your dad is the anti vegan. And I always came home for Christmas at that point in time. And she said, I don't know what to do unless you mastermind a vegan feast and sell the family on it. And I was all in. Amazing. I'll mastermind that feast. Maybe you can sell the family on it. I made 8 new dishes on for that Christmas. It was amazing. The food was delicious. It was a huge success. Mum saw how much work I'd gone to. And when I was about to fly home to Sydney, where I lived at that point in time, the day I was flying home, she said, Katie, will you watch What the Health with me? And now this is a documentary that I had been emotionally blackmailing my parents to watch for years at that point in time without success. Not interested because emotional blackmail doesn't work.
Right.
After that amazing vegan feast, mum sat down and watched What the Health and was struck by it. As a nurse of 30 years, she was struck by our broken sick care system rather than a preventative healthcare system. And she said, I'm going to try this plant based thing for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks became a number of years until about 3 years ago now, I got the phone call from my father that I always thought I'd get from my mother. My dad isn't that healthy in body or attitudes. And my mum was the most warm, vibrant, generous person I've ever known. And so I got the call from my dad to say that my mum had died suddenly. And I'd spoken to her that morning, 7 a.m. that morning on a Sunday, as always. I'd had that beautiful conversation with her. And then by about 4 p.m. that Sunday, she was gone.
Wow.
And obviously, this wasn't an immediate epiphany moment because I was just in shock and
Right.
grief and loss for so long. However, I did fairly early on realize that with mum, I had no regrets because we knew how much we loved and respected each other. I'm lucky for
Yeah.
that. If it had been my father, I would have had regrets because me focusing on everything that was different about him was building a wall in our relationship. So I knew that I would have had regrets if it was him. And equally, the grief and shock and sadness of losing the most important person in my life, my mum, it left me literally with no more energy to carry around that anger, hate. that I had been carrying for all the non-vegans in my life. I just did not have the energy. All my energies and emotion were in grief. And so I was forced to the point of no longer leading with anger because I just did not have it in me. And I guess a period of months down the track, I also, you know, got more, I guess, more actionable is not the word, but I started to think, I started to bring it an awareness to the situation. You know, if I were to continue as this angry person, how are my relationships, both business and personal, how are they going to look in 12 months, in 24 months if I continue on down this track? And it's not a pretty picture, right?
Mhm.
So I consciously thought of some of the things I needed to stop doing. I stopped going to animal rights activist events. I stopped sharing slaughterhouse footage online. I started sharing delicious food in person and online and good news stories. And so I consciously began the process of being more about the love than the anger. And then with time, I realized that by doing that, was also a way to honor my mum because she was the most loving, compassionate person who, from the very youngest age, taught me to lead with deliciousness. You know, you win people over with amazing food, right? That's
Right.
how people show love, and everyone's sold on good food. So that is my primary strategy now, to honor mum and to lead with love and compassion and deliciousness wherever I can, and to just hold back that little young, angry vegan Kate.
And one of the things that I hear in your story, first of all, unfortunately, it really does sometimes take hitting rock bottom type of moments
Mhm,
for us to change. And I'm so sorry that that happened in such a sudden way. If you guys are listening to my podcast, you know, my last one was what I learned from the death of my father about business. And so it was also very sudden. But one of the things that really struck me, you know, you said you had an NLP background, and a big piece of that is we have to focus on what we want, not what we don't want. And when you're going to a lot of animal rights activist meetings and a lot of activism these days, it's very centered on what's wrong.
mhm,
This is terrible. We have to fight against it. And so it's this constant fight and this constant battle instead of what are we going to do to instead of this.
mhm,
And what I really hear in your story is as you started to make this shift, you started to focus on what you wanted to create. My guess is you were so passionate about veganism and animal rights because you love the animals. Yes?
I absolutely do, and also my podcast is called Healthification. I've been a personal trainer for a couple of decades now. I see health as not just helping individuals create a body they love and the confidence that comes with that. I see health really as also about the health of the planet and all those we
Mhm.
share it with.
Mm,
Without your health, you have nothing.
yeah.
Without the health of the planet and all those we share it with, all those species, we also have nothing. So it is about so much more to me.
Right. So the human body is almost the microcosm of the bigger purpose
It's
and
oneness, right?
what you're moving towards. Yeah.
For
And
sure.
yeah. And so as you moved and you switched your focus, you started really sharing and moving towards the things you wanted to create. You started creating them instead of fighting against
Mhm,
what was not working. And the same with your father. You started focusing on what was the things you wanted to focus on in the relationship rather than rebelling and fighting against what is different, just as you said before. And again, going back to that, we get what we focus on. So as you shifted your focus into sharing the benefits and the goodness that comes out of the delicious recipes, the healthification of the body. How did your business start to shift? What shifted as a result of that in the business arena?
So it becomes more like you're pulling people towards you and welcoming them on board, right? Than that battle and that pushing away. And from a business point of view, it's just so much more enjoyable to welcome people on
Yeah.
board. And just maybe 6 months before mum passed, I'd started what is to be, I guess, my proudest and biggest project, which is the Plant Positive Journal. And it's a little vegan Trojan horse, and it's a daily
Mhm.
planner that also helps you adopt a healthy plant based lifestyle to the degree that you're up for it, right? Like
Right.
it's a beautiful daily planner. It's how I master both my time and my mind. And also, if you're up for it, it's got all the steps, specifically the mindset strategies and the recipes that helps you adopt that healthy plant-based lifestyle. And I'd started that before mum passed, and she didn't get to see it. However, I included a lot of her recipes because she was a bit of a master at veganizing the old family favorites. And I've just found that that delicately gentle planting little seeds approach in business, that is the first thing that has really taken off. PT came real personal training came really easily just because, you know, maybe you rock around with that fit, strong, healthy body, and that's enough to sell people when they get to see you in person, right? From an online point of view, if I'm leading with the hate and anger, that's not a good sell. However, if I'm leading with a beautiful product that I use every single day and it's just a gentle planting of the seeds, I'm not looking to have one conversation that makes someone vegan in the way that I used to in the past. I just want someone to come away from an interaction with me or an interaction with my product to go, oh, that's actually busted that dodgy stereotype I used to have about vegans just a bit. Or she's actually a lot more chill than I expected, or friendly, or happy, or healthy, whatever it may be. It's a much more natural approach to doing business, and a business that's aligned with where my heart's at now and is in that way much more sustainable. I felt like I was on the edge of burnout, and I know that many activists, whatever you care about most, whatever it is for you, when you care about it so much that you're on 24/7 flying the flag and fighting the fight,
Right.
you likely also feel 24/7 that you're about to crash and you're on the
Yeah.
edge of burnout.
Yeah. One of my clients is an activist, and they have dramatically changed the way they look at creating change in the world.
Mhm.
And it's a big piece of it is that shift in what we want to create
Yeah.
as
What
opposed
it
to the battle.
Whatever we care about most, it is not going to happen in the time frame that we would most love. So we need to cultivate some patience, sadly, and we also need to cultivate respect and priority for our own self-care because we need to be in the game long term and not just burn bright and fizzle out.
Yeah. Before we dive deeper into some more questions, how do people get that journal?
Thank you for asking. Everything me, especially the journal, you can find via strongbodygreenplanet.com. You'll be guided towards the right place.
Okay, so everybody open up the browsers, do it now because like, oh, I'll do it later and then you forget. No, type it in now.
Dot com.
Strongbodygreenplanet.com.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Now, when, let's see, how do I want to put this? I know that you also have learned the art of how to back yourself 100%. And before I dive into that, because I think that's incredibly important, but I want to bring up this thing about fitness and entrepreneurship. And there is no mistake that many fitness coaches end up becoming business coaches down the line. And a lot of this is because similar principles apply to getting in your most optimum health as getting your business into your most optimum health. There is the consistency, there is the saying no, learning how to say no. There's so many different things that really lend well once you master them in your own fitness journey, in your own body health journey, that just become now have become habits. So they translate into the rest of your world. They translate into your business life, they translate into your relationships, everything else. What are some of the big things that when you take the time to really get yourself healthy, the habits that you create there that really translate into creating a better, more effective business?
I love this question because one of the things I've been most fascinated by are the correlations between body mastery and business mastery.
Yeah.
And I think also, as you said, shared, maybe a lot of PTs get into business coaching because a lot of us are lucky enough to spend time with really successful business people. I
Mm,
mean, we're a luxury product, right? Personal
yeah.
trainers. So often the people that spend time with us are super successful and they really prioritize their time. Maybe they know what to do in the gym. However, a trainer makes it more effective and efficient, and they love that. And so that's one of the things I've always loved most about my job. And you hinted at some of the things that are similar between success in business and health. And I would say personal responsibility is one of those things as well. The
Yes.
people that accept that get great results in either area, they accept 100% responsibility and they see that as a plus. I get to be in control of this, right? Which
Yep.
is absolutely amazing. And so far as the benefits to business, well, it's an energy and focus and clarity and you're more time effective in what you do in your business when your body is in a healthy place. And also I would say it's what I hinted at early days. The reason I first got obsessed with the gym was to transform both my body and my confidence. And the confidence that you take from being able to, I call it choose my curves, particularly that might appeal to my female clients, right? But you lift heavy weights, which is my primary focus in the gym with my clients and myself. And you get to choose where you put that sexy lean muscle and muscle's metabolism, that fat melts away naturally. You get to choose your curves and rock around in a body that you feel confident in. And that is absolutely transferable to every aspect of your life. You better believe that that is going to have a positive impact in your business, not just in your effectiveness and energy, also the way you carry yourself, the way that you look, the confidence, the posture when you rock into a room and you meet new people. That has been the most powerful impact for me personally. And again, the thing that I love to see in my clients as well.
So I think this is really a great place to lead into that backing yourself 100%. So your first business, was it your first business? Was it the gym with the all the boys club? Tell me about that.
100%. You're referring to the business from hell, and backing yourself in confidence has been a reoccurring theme in my story. I first built that confidence that a strong, healthy, fit body gives you. I didn't yet have that confidence in business. And after excelling as a young personal trainer for 18 months or so, I bought into the franchise that I was a part of with my then boss. And so we were business partners. And I was to realize that it absolutely was a boys' club for sure. And there was a lot of false confidence. These were big, buff, gym bro guys. And as I said, boys' club, false confidence, getting to spend time up close with people who are successful monetarily. You come to see that it is a lot about what they think of themselves, their self image, what they present to the world. Other people believe that, whether it's true or not, right? Like some of these guys really weren't that special. They just portrayed this fake confidence, which I don't recommend. There's not much substance behind it. And they're great when the going's good. right?
Right.
However, business was all about how you show up in those tough times. And that first business absolutely was a tough time. It was the first franchise that we bought that actually sold within the whole business. So even though we had all the systems, we didn't have the systems for what happens when one owner jumps out and new owners take on board the franchise.
Mhm.
And that included no rules around goodwill. Goodwill in a gym is basically all that you've got. That's the client list in a gym. You're taking over a commercial lease. At that time, you're taking over equipment leases. You're taking over a team, whether they're good or bad. And basically, the only value of the business is the existing client database. And that is worth a lot. We just said on a handshake, yeah, that'll be right, mate. Those clients are going to stay with your business. You know, cut to the chase, most of the clients didn't stay with our business. They moved with the trainer that they had been training with, who was going back to his
Oh.
old gym. So called it the business from hell for so many reasons that it was basically a money hemorrhaging 24/7 little, I guess, hell of stress, right? Some of my clients were amazing, most of them. My team was actually pretty amazing. However, I learnt in that 24/7 nonstop, no time for self-care or anything like that. I kind of learned that pretty much you can't rely on other people. My business partner jumped out sensibly and sold his share to another guy who was a much worse business partner and was full of all the fake confidence that I've talked about. I learned that you can't rely on circumstances or people. What you can do is cultivate that certainty of self. You can come to rely on you by being the type of person that stays true to you and to your word and to what you're saying you're going to do. You can build that belief, that self certainty, that trust in yourself. And that's basically what I did over those 2.5 years, 2.5 years in that business to cling on until I was able to sell the business, thankfully, and escape to freedom. And that's something that I look back on all the time as I recommend to any of my clients that are going through a really tough situation in business or life. Once you have that, I don't think I can get through it moment, and then you do.
Right.
The learnings, the strength, the self-certainty that comes from that, because you can always look back to that and go, I don't even know how I managed that, right? I remember turning up to a mediation meeting between the franchisor, so the big fish, and my business partner and myself. And the structure of it, you turn up to head office, and the franchisor and our support rep, we used to call her the non support rep, and my business partner were all seated at one side of the table for this mediation. And I was seated all on my own on the other side. Now, I don't know how that's a mediation between two individuals when he's over there with the two bosses and I'm on my own. And I was later to learn that one of the more successful franchisees like myself who had turned up to a mediation meeting, and this guy was a huge unit of a guy, 100 kilos plus, who would compete in heavyweight bodybuilding. He turned up to a similar meeting with his lawyer. And I just turned up on my own, this tiny little chick at that time, was 29. And anyway, I look back on times like that and standing up for yourself and backing yourself, and that is probably my most powerful learning.
So I want to point out a couple of things here. You said that you've learned you could only rely on yourself. Now, I want to clarify sort of the difference here because there's this place of, I just have to do everything by myself and I can only rely on myself and everybody else sucks. There's that. And that's where a lot of people are when people have let you down, they drop the ball, you just become crazy independent to the point where you put up walls and you don't allow any help in. And then there's the point of, you said something that made me know which kind of independence and strength within self you were talking about, is you said when everything has fallen apart and then you get to really see what you're made of.
Mhm.
And there's this place where, we could call it rock bottom. And similar to when everything happened with mom for you. There's this place where everything that the way you were doing things before is not necessarily the way that it's going to work. And then you really have to rely on yourself to make the change. So you made the change to switch from anger to love. You made that shift. And it sounds like this was another one of those moments where you got to really see what you were made of and make a shift and stand up for yourself and move towards what it is that you want. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, that's a really good catch because I will say I am a huge fan of mentors. Like, I still pay for and prioritize mentors. However, it's not all just me. However, you do need to be really clear on what your values are, how
Yeah.
they align with your goals and your vision, so that you can be in a place when this mentor that you do respect, that do has have the results that you are seeking, when they suggest something that doesn't align, it doesn't feel right with the person that you are and what you're looking to achieve and the person you're looking to be in the world, you still have that strength and that certainty of self to say, even though this person might be ahead of me in business, what they're suggesting just does not feel right to me and my goals right now. And so you can still take the good from that mentor. You don't have to blindly obey everything they do either, because I fell for
Absolutely.
that for a while as well, right? I'm like, you make more money than me, you must know everything. No, they don't know all of my values and beliefs and what I am looking to achieve in the world. So, fine line.
Exactly. And if you did everything that they told you to do because they said it's the right thing to do, then because if it's not aligned with you, it's going to come off inauthentic, which means it's not going
100%.
to work. I mean, it might work a little bit, but it's not going to work the way that it could if you did something else that's more aligned with you. And that's one of the big things that I try to teach. And it's such a big piece of the Be the Wolf thing. Yes, absolutely. Learn, take the knowledge, work with mentors, do all of that, but have that strength in self to know that if they all walked away from you, you would be okay. You could
Mhm.
pick yourself up. And this isn't the pick yourself up by the bootstraps and power through. It means that you trust yourself enough that if everything fell apart, you could take one step and then another step and then another step and just keep trusting yourself in that way. And as beautiful gifts and things from the universe come in to support you, accept them, receive them without trying to push away, thinking like I have to do everything by myself. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's a piece that's really important is that trust within self. And when you say back yourself 100%, that a most important piece of that is to understand yourself so that
Absolutely.
you can back yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, you can still back yourself 100% and accept and ask for help and support from other people. It just comes down to that clarity on what you're looking to achieve and the person that you want to be as you achieve that.
100%. All right. I think this is a beautiful way to remind everybody again how to get in touch with you.
Strongbodygreenplanet.com will take you to the journal, the healthification podcast, and my socials.
Okay. Beautiful. And for the entrepreneurs out there who want a little extra support, need some tips, I've got 3 secrets of the business gurus never talk about. You can grab that at bethewolfgift.com. Open up the browsers, strongbodygreenplanet.com
.com.
and bethewolfgift.com. Thank you, Kate, for joining us today. And everybody, remember when you unleash the power of you, humanity evolves. We'll see you next time on Be the Wolf. Bye, everyone.